Next, we just want to take a minute to spotlight DOR's Work Incentive Planning Services, or what we call WIP services. It is my great honor to introduce one of our amazing work incentive planners, Scott Winslow. Scott is in his 9th year as a work incentive planner here at the Department of Rehabilitation, or as what we refer to as a WIP. He previously worked for the Center for Independent Living for 7 years, and as a person with a disability, Scott is committed to assisting individuals with disabilities in achieving meaningful employment, viewing it as a critical pathway to overcoming the poverty often associated with Social Security benefits. He's married and has 2 wonderful children. Scott's working in the San Jose district, and he's worked with hundreds of consumers, right? And so just Scott, real quickly, can you share a little bit about your role as a WIP?
Okay. I see my primary role as a WIP being someone that dispels the rumors around Social Security, around losing your cash benefit, around losing your health care, around losing your benefits and not being able to reapply. I really want people to understand what happens to their benefits when they go to work. I also see a large part of my role as helping our beneficiaries overcome their fears about going to work by teaching them the work incentives and dispelling numerous myths that surround Social Security and unemployment and employment. The part of my job I like best as a WIP is dispelling myths and lowering the overall anxiety that beneficiaries feel about working. Many consumers I meet with don't know their potential yet and have limited work experience, and their anxieties about losing their benefits can be overwhelming. Those consumers, for lack of a better name, are beneficiaries, I like to call them, that are not sure they want to give up benefits and go to work, are happy to learn that they don't necessarily have to give up their benefits in order to work. The great news is once we're done talking about work incentives, reporting wages, and all that good stuff, most beneficiaries' anxieties have greatly reduced and they're eager to go to work.
Yeah, some really meaningful and helpful guidance. So can you tell us a little bit more about how a WIP can help someone who's receiving disability benefits?
Yeah, WIPs can help dispel those Social Security myths I was referring to earlier by teaching beneficiaries how working will affect their SSDI, SSI, Medicare, and Medi-Cal, and other public benefits. WIPs can teach you the difference between SSI and SSDI programs, which is basically the foundation of all of these teachings. They can show beneficiaries different tools to help them learn how to understand how the programs operate. And once the beneficiaries understand the work incentives and the rules regarding working, they can make informed decisions about how much they want to work. As WIPs, we hope they choose to work as much as possible, and in hopes of getting off of benefits or being less reliant on them. We see working as a way for Social Security beneficiaries to get themselves out of poverty level existence. We also realize that working is more than just about money. It's a way to meet new people, make friends, and escape the isolation that so many people with disabilities find themselves in.
Yeah, that's awesome, Scott. But what is the most important recommendation you'd give to someone who's on disability benefits considering going to work?
I'd say the most important advice is to work with an expert, with a WIP or a WIPA. Whether you go through the DOR or a WIPA project that's affiliated with the Center for Independent Living, it's really in your best interest to speak to someone who can explain the benefits you're receiving and the work incentives you're entitled to. They can also explain numerous ways in which you can report benefits so you can avoid overpayment, and they can help you with an overpayment, how to handle that situation. If you can't find an expert or don't have the time or whatever the reason, I would say the most important thing is to realize you're responsible to report your wages every month and do so. You might have to call or go online to Social Security to find the best way to report your wages, but it must be done if you want to avoid overpayments and other issues. If you're on SSI, there's numerous ways you can report your wages. You can use the phone app available through Apple and Google apps. You can report online, which I'll get to in a moment. You can fax your pay stubs to SSI. You can mail them. You can drop off copies in the SSA Dropbox. All reporting must be done by the 6th of each month. So for example, if you're reporting November's wages, you want to report those by December 6th. Those that are receiving SSDI are those who are concurrent beneficiaries, those with both SSI and SSDI. You can't report by phone app, but they can use the other methods that I mentioned. Social Security would actually prefer that you report online with the login.gov or the ID.me website. But this entails you getting your employer's ID tax number and reporting it to SSA so they can match it with your Social Security number. This might be a problem for those who don't want to disclose their disability, but the benefits of setting up an online reporting system are great because it's going to save you a lot of time and hassle in the long run. So that's a decision that some people are going to have to wrestle with. When you log on, you choose the reporting link, enter your monthly wages, and submit. A receipt will be automatically generated. Those concurrent beneficiaries and those on SSDI can use other methods of reporting if they object to asking for their employee's tax ID number. The most important thing is that you need to report, and you also need to keep records of your reporting because SSA will ask you for pay stubs later on, even though you have already provided them. Consulting with a WIP or WIPA is also important because they can explain the Ticket to Work program, which can absolve you from medical review if you work up to the required Ticket to Work level stages. The Ticket to Work is also geared towards those who want to work full-time and eventually leave the Social Security roster, but it does offer protection for those that are only working part-time.
What would you say is the most common questions that people with disabilities have?
I'd say the most common question I get, and probably all the other WIPs get too, is how much can I earn without affecting my benefits? Most beneficiaries expect like a 5-second response, throw out a number, and then move on. But most WIPs are going to want to get you to get a benefits planning query to help identify the benefits you're on. And if you're an SSI recipient, we're going to tell you you can earn up to $58,638 a year before your free Medi-Cal ends. And if you earn over that, you can switch to the Working Disabled program that'll let you earn up to $76,320 and keep your free Medi-Cal. So that's the short answer. And the long answer is even more involved. It has to do with 6019B Medi-Cal program that starts when someone works enough to have their SSI check reduced to zero. So to have it reduced to zero this year in 2024, you'd have to make approximately $2,450. 1619B puts a placeholder in your SSI so you can come back to your benefits should the job not work out. But it'll let you work at that level as long as you're considered disabled. There's typically some confusion about the breaking point, that $2,450, and people see that as an earnings cap, but actually the 1619B and 250% working disabled plan is much higher. That goes up once again to $76,320. With SSDI and concurrent beneficiaries, it's more complex. We're also going to want you to get a benefits planning query, and we're going to work with you to figure out exactly where you are in the 3 stages of your SSDI. We need to establish that first before we can tell you where you're going to go. Each stage of your SSDI has different earning rules. So we'll go through those and teach you what you can expect when you first start to work. Don't necessarily want to give you the short answer because it's really in your best interest to know the entire picture. I think just throwing out a number is doing someone a disservice.
Yeah, it gets a little more complicated than just a number. So we just have a few more minutes, Scott. Can you just briefly let us know how someone working with the Department of Rehab can connect with a work incentive planner, and then maybe share a success story? I know you have hundreds of them, but maybe just share real briefly a quick success story of how you were able to kind of assist a consumer.
Okay. If you're a DOR consumer and you want to speak to WIP, you can go through your service coordinator, your business specialist. They can refer you to a WIP. If you're not a DOR consumer, you can go to the Ticket to Work website, choosework.ssa.gov, and search for a WIPA project. For an example, I had a female consumer, and I'll call her Betty, and she had really high anxiety, and she was forced into a situation where she had to go to work. Her husband had passed from COVID, and he was her main source of money. So was forced to go to work to pay rent. She was really nervous. She kept saying, I don't know if I can work. I don't know if I can work. I don't know if I can do this. And I would explain the SSDI benefits to her. And she would, I don't know. I don't know if I can understand this. And she was really seemed on edge about going back to work. So I had to slow things down and work with her. And she eventually got to the point where she understood the trial work period and the extended period of eligibility. And I described the 250% working disabled program, which she was going to have to go on if she started working and making above a certain amount of money. But shortly after that, she was able to get a job at Sephora, and which is a makeup supplier, I think, or makeup retailer. And she got the job, and she was excited, but she was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I was talking to her and trying to build up her confidence. And she went to work and things went well. She was getting good feedback and she got a raise. And she called me and she was ecstatic. She got this raise. And I congratulated her. And then we hung up the phone and I didn't hear from her for a while. She called me back in 2 or 3 months and said that she was in a panic. Her landlord had given her a 60-day notice and she didn't know what to do. So I gave her the phone number for the local independent living center, which is working with Housing Choices. And after about a month, they were able to place her in a senior housing complex. And part of that was that she had to have Social Security benefits to maintain that housing. So she was worried about working and losing her housing, and she kept getting raises at Sephora. Luckily, we went through her SSDI tracking sheet, which is a tool that WIPs work with. And I denoted the time that she was going to retire. And her official retirement was about 3 months after our phone call. So she was pretty happy that she was going to be able to squeak under and then eventually retire and not have to worry about her Social Security for housing or her Social Security as far as reporting wages and things like that.
Really appreciate you being here today, the great work that you're doing. And I'm sure the consumer that you just shared her success story is in a much better place than she was before she started working, right?
Definitely,
So,
yes, definitely.
yeah.